Thank you, Chair. Conference. Morning. Glyn Jones, President of the Society for Union Employees. We use our acronym, so it's okay to call me Sue. Just a little bit about our organisation first. The Society was born out of a staff association in old Newpie. Some of you might remember Newpie as a union, back in the 60s. And the aspiration was that for employees of trade unions, we would be a neutral organisation with which to represent staff with their employer, the trade unions. Because certainly up until then, and probably still now, you know, for example, my colleagues who work for the GMB are members of Unite. Unite, I think, have got their own federation, but there are other unions representing employees of other unions, and it all gets a bit confusing and a bit embarrassing sometimes. But let's just say, you know, a trade union inside a trade union, something that would give the editor of the Daily Mail apoplexy, and if for that reason and that reason alone I'm proud we exist. But it is a bit more than that. It's not like another employer, it's not like working for Fords. It's a very more subtle relationship. We share the same aspirations as our employer, of course we do, and many of our members think it's a privilege to be paid for work that we would probably otherwise do, as a lot of people do, as volunteers, as activists in the trade unions. But that doesn't mean to say that that support and that commitment should be exploited by an employer. Many of our colleagues have suffered burnout and stress and breakdowns as they put the hours in because of the unrelenting attacks on our movement. And there has to be a voice to say, fine, but you have to look after us. And 9.2 is a reference there to an affiliate who requested, it was us, that we start as a trade union movement, getting over this competition, this kind of embarrassment as trade unions, as employers, to stop trying to sort of hide what you do with your own staff, and let's be a little bit more open about it. At every trade union conference, we hear issues and rhetoric about good employers, good employment practice. Well, we have to go beyond the rhetoric into the detail. What does that mean? And as trade unions, as employers, should they not provide the example to the rest of society of how to work? Now, we don't want feather bedding. We know the situation. With declining membership, it means declining income, which means there's pressure. And our wage bill is a significant part of most trade unions' budgets. So it's not as though we are looking for some sort of easy fix, but what we do think is there's a lot we can learn from each other, and we can start to demystify the whole process. Can I say that when Sue was formed, I suppose you could really call it, if you wanted to be a bit cruel, it was like the Bullington Club of the trade union movement, but instead of Eton, it was Ruskin College, right? It was all these young, thrusting men from Ruskin came together and really pushed. I mean, I think Newpie grew from 250,000 to 750,000 in a matter of years. Incredible growth at that time, driven by full-timers. But the formation of Unison, we stopped and we paused and we decided that actually as an organisation we have got something to bring to the table, but we stopped just representing officers, as they were called, organisers, and we opened it to all grades of staff. So within Sue now we have all grades of staff. We have cleaners, we have secretarial staff, printers, people that look after our membership records, as well as the organising staff out there. And I have to say, I think I'm the first person from Sue ever to attend a GFTU conference. So we've been going about 50 years, you've been going about 100 years. It's only got, the last couple of years we've got our applicant to join. and I think we have found a home. Because in the past, our organisers who represented Sue, well, they already had the skill sets to do the representation, that was their day job. But now we are having other grades of staff coming forward as reps, and they have made full use of the education programme. And I have to say, I have not heard one hint of criticism about them. In fact, it's all been good news. And that has spread through the organisation. And therefore, we've got an incredibly high take-up of usage of your courses, our courses, can we say. And we certainly do appreciate that. But we can do a little bit more. And hence the request to the executive and the reference in the report. It's a little bit of a departure, it's something a little bit new. And it's not mainstream. It's not like a huge defence against an attack on the trade union movement and all the big ticket issues we were hearing about yesterday. But it's something, a discrete piece of work that we think that no one else is doing, and the GFTU is ideally placed, and that is to start to gather the data about trade unions. And just finally, a lot of trade unions say, we would like our staff to be representative of our members. Normally, that means we want more women, we want more black and ethnic minority people on our staff, more people with disabilities to reflect that broad proportions. Well, how do you do that? And again, we've got some experience of flexible working, negotiating inside Unison, about flexible working that allows people to accommodate work around their own personal circumstance. We would like to share, and I'm sure out there are unions that are grappling that same problem, coming up with different solutions, and let us start to cooperate in that venture rather than keeping it hidden and almost being embarrassed about being an employer. It's no big deal. It's not a sin to be an employer. It's just a sin to be a bad one. So, finally, thank you, that's from me. Johnny Cash talked about a boy named Sue, and you've probably never met one, but you can go and tell anyone who listens that this weekend at this conference you met a trade union called Sue. Thank you. Brilliant.